The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before the Coalition patrol vessel Starseeker as it glided through the darkness. Stars twinkled like distant jewels, their light barely touching the sleek hull of the ship. Commander Quan Duhan sat in his command chair, his tall Astrine frame relaxed as he watched his crew work. The Astrines were proud of their accomplishments. They had ruled these space lanes for thousands of years, their crystalline bodies and advanced technology, making them one of the most respected species in the Coalition. Duhan's own skin sparkled under the soft bridge lights, each movement creating tiny rainbows across his surface. Another quiet patrol, he thought, allowing himself a small smile. The outer rim of the Centauri sector rarely saw any excitement. Most ships that passed through were merchants or registered Coalition vessels. His crew of 20 had perfected their routine over the past 3 cycles, and he trusted each one of them completely. Lieutenant Jin Hana sat at her sensor station, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Like all Astrines, her crystalline form captured and reflected light, creating beautiful patterns on the nearby walls. She had served under Duhan for 5 years, and he considered her one of his most reliable officers. The bridge hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-trained crew. The soft beeping of instruments and occasional murmured conversations created a peaceful atmosphere that Duhan had come to appreciate. This was how patrols should be: calm, organized, and predictable. That peace shattered when Hannah's console suddenly lit up with urgent warnings. Her crystalline fingers froze above the controls, and her voice carried a note of surprise that Duhan had never heard before. "Commander, unknown vessel detected at bearing 340, she called out, her voice cutting through the quiet bridge atmosphere. The other crew members turned to look at her station, their own crystalline forms reflecting their growing concern. Duhan sat up straighter in his chair. "Classification?" he asked, keeping his voice steady despite the unexpected situation. Unknown vessels were rare in Coalition space, and unregistered ones even rarer. Hannah's fingers flew across her console, running every scan and analysis program available. The confusion in her voice grew with each passing moment. "Unable to determine, sir. It's not matching any known configurations in our database." The main view screen activated, showing them their first look at the mysterious vessel. Duhan felt his crystalline form vibrate with surprise. The ship before them was unlike anything he had seen in his 100 years of service. It was dark, almost black, with smooth lines that reminded him of the predatory fish in the oceans of his homeworld. The vessel's hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to determine its exact size. No visible weapons were apparent, but something about its design spoke of hidden danger. "Magnification times 10, Duhan ordered, leaning forward in his chair. The image zoomed in, revealing more details of the strange ship. No markings were visible, no identification numbers or Coalition registry symbols. "Sir," Hana reported, "the vessel is maintaining its current course and speed. It's not responding to our presence." Duhan considered his options. As a Coalition patrol commander, he had the authority and duty to inspect any unregistered vessel in their space. The fact that this ship matched no known configuration was concerning. It could be a new type of smuggler vessel, or worse, a previously unknown threat to Coalition security. "Open a communication channel," he commanded. His communications officer, a younger Astrine named Pak Sung-min, quickly complied. "Unknown vessel, this is Commander Quan Duhan of the Coalition patrol vessel Starseeker. You have entered Coalition space. Prepare to heave to and submit to inspection, as per Coalition Law Section 47B. They waited. Seconds stretched into minutes with no response. The unknown ship continued its course as if they weren't even there. "Send the message again," Duhan ordered, his crystalline form now vibrating with irritation. No one ignored the Coalition patrol, especially not in their own space. After the third attempt at communication, Duhan had enough. "Move to intercept course. Power up forward tractor beams. If they won't respond to communication, we'll make them stop." The Star Seeker's engines hummed as they changed course to intercept the mysterious vessel. Duhan watched as the distance between the ships decreased. He had done this countless times before with smugglers and other lawbreakers. They would disable the ship, board it, and sort everything out according to Coalition law. Just as they came within tractor beam range, Hannah's console erupted with new warnings. "Sir, energy spike from the unknown vessel." There, her words were cut off by a transmission that filled their communication channels. The voice that came through was unlike anything they had ever heard before, and its message would mark the beginning of a new era in galactic history. The bridge of the Star Seeker fell silent as the unexpected transmission echoed through their speakers. The voice was firm, clear, and carried an authority that seemed to fill the entire command center. "This is Captain Lee Sunnock of the HMS Defiant. We do not recognize your authority in this sector. Stand down." Duhan's crystalline form vibrated with surprise. In all his years of service, no one had ever dared to challenge Coalition authority so directly. He looked at his crew, noting their own shocked reactions. Lieutenant Hannah's fingers hovered frozen above her console, while Communications Officer Sungmin seemed to have forgotten to breathe. "Analysis of the transmission," Duhan ordered, trying to maintain his composure. Sungmin quickly ran the voice pattern through their database. "Sir, the language structure matches nothing in our records. The universal translator is adapting to it in real time. And, sir, the biological patterns in the voice. They're completely unknown." Duhan felt a chill run through his crystalline body. A new species. Here, in Coalition space, it was unprecedented. The Coalition had mapped and categorized every known spacefaring race in this sector of the galaxy. The appearance of an unknown species with this level of technology was impossible. "Full scan of their vessel," he commanded. Hannah immediately complied, her fingers dancing across her controls. "Sir, their hull composition is strange. I'm detecting materials we've never encountered before. The power readings are fluctuating in patterns I don't understand." Duhan squared his shoulders. New species or not, the law was the law. Centuries of Coalition dominance had taught them that showing weakness only invited chaos. He opened the communication channel again. "HMS Defiant, this is your final warning. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with force. The Coalition's authority in this sector is absolute." The response wasn't immediate, and in that brief silence, Duhan noticed something odd. The seemingly vulnerable vessel before them had begun to change. What had appeared to be smooth, dark hull plates were shifting, moving like the scales of a living creature. "Energy spike." Hannah called out suddenly, her voice tight with alarm. "Multiple points across their hull are opening." The main viewer showed them something that would haunt their dreams for years to come. The sleek, predatory ship was transforming before their eyes. Panels that had seemed decorative split apart, revealing weapon ports of unknown design. The ship's profile changed as additional armor plates emerged from hidden compartments, turning the elegant vessel into something that looked decidedly more threatening. "Weapons locks detected." Hannah's voice had risen an octave. "They're targeting multiple systems." Duhan felt his confidence wavering for the first time in decades. The ship before them had gone from appearing like a lost vagrant to a weapon of war in mere seconds. But he was a Coalition commander, and he had his duty. "Power up forward weapons," he ordered. "Prepare boarding parties. They may have fancy tricks, but we have numbers and experience on our side." The Star Seeker's weapon systems hummed to life, their familiar sound usually bringing comfort to the crew. But something felt different this time. The human ship, the Defiant, remained eerily still, its transformed appearance radiating a sense of barely contained power. A new transmission cut through their communications. Captain Lee Sunnock's voice carried a note of what almost sounded like pity. "Coalition vessel, your weapons are registered and targeted. Your shields have been analyzed and found inadequate. This is your final opportunity to withdraw." Duhan felt his pride sting at the casual dismissal of their defenses. The Coalition's shield technology was the most advanced in known space. Who were these humans to claim it was inadequate? "Launch warning shots," he commanded. "Show them what Coalition technology can do." The Star Seeker's forward energy cannons fired, sending brilliant beams of light toward the Defiant. What happened next made every crystalline being on the bridge vibrate in shock. The human vessel moved with impossible speed, the energy beams passing harmlessly through the space it had occupied a fraction of a second before. "Sir," Haina's voice was filled with disbelief. "Their maneuvering capabilities, they exceed anything in our database. The power required for such movement should be impossible for a ship that size." Duhan watched as the Defiant settled into a new position, now slightly above and behind them. The move had been so smooth, so precise, that it looked almost casual. In that moment, Duhan realized something that sent shivers through his crystalline form. They weren't the hunters anymore. They had never been the hunters. From the moment the Defiant had appeared, they had been playing its game, and only now did they realize they were the prey. The human captain's next words confirmed his fears. "Since you seem intent on learning the hard way, allow us to demonstrate why challenging the human warship is unwise. Perhaps this will be an educational experience for the Coalition." The emergency distress signal from the Star Seeker had brought Commander Park Minji's battle group rushing through hyperspace at maximum speed. As the commanding officer of the Eternal Flame battle group, she had led countless operations against pirates, smugglers, and various threats to Coalition space. The 3 heavy cruisers under her command represented the finest ships in the Coalition fleet. Minji stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Flame, her crystalline form gleaming with confidence. Behind her, the cruisers Thunder Wing and Starbreaker emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a small continent. Whatever trouble the Star Seeker had encountered would soon be resolved. "Status report," she ordered, her voice sharp and clear. Her sensor officer's response was immediate, but carried an unusual note of concern. "Commander, we've located the Star Seeker, but something's wrong." The main view screen activated, showing them their first view of the situation. Minji felt her crystalline structure vibrate with shock. The Star Seeker drifted helplessly in space, its engines dark and lifeless. Scorch marks decorated its hull in precise patterns, telling a story of surgical strikes rather than random damage. "Life signs," Minji demanded. "All crew alive, Commander. But the Star Seeker's primary drive is completely disabled. Weapon systems are offline. It's like someone took apart a toy and put it back together wrong." Minji's attention shifted to the other ship in view, dark, predatory, and unlike anything she had seen in her 2 centuries of service. The vessel seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars, making it look like a hole in space itself. Classification of the hostile vessel. Her tactical officer, a veteran of 30 years, sounded frustrated. "Unknown design, Commander. But the power readings, they're like nothing we've ever seen." Minji had not achieved her rank by being cautious. The Coalition had ruled space for thousands of years. No single ship, no matter how unusual, could stand against 3 heavy cruisers. "Launch all fighters," she commanded. "Full combat spread. Show them true Coalition power." The space around the 3 cruisers came alive as fighter squadrons poured from their launch bays. 60 of the Coalition's finest pilots and their most advanced strike craft formed up in attack patterns that had been perfected over centuries. The unknown vessel, the Defiant, according to their data, remained motionless. Minji allowed herself a small smile. Finally, this intruder would learn the price of challenging the Coalition. That smile vanished as her tactical officer suddenly shouted, "Energy spike. The hostile vessel is." The Defiant moved. Not the elegant turns of Coalition ships, but a brutal, efficient shift in position. Then it opened fire. Minji watched in horror as strange weapons she had never seen before activated. Long, dark barrels extended from the hull, And what happened next defied everything she knew about space combat. Metal slugs, accelerated to impossible speeds, crossed the distance between ships instantly. The Coalition's energy shields, the pride of their technology, might as well have been paper. The rounds passed through them without slowing, striking fighter craft with devastating precision. "Shields are ineffective," her tactical officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. "Their weapons, they're using some kind of kinetic technology. Our shields aren't designed to stop physical objects at these velocities." Minji watched as her fighter squadrons, the elite of the Coalition fleet, were systematically demolished. The Defiance Point defense systems activated next, streams of energy so precise they looked like solid lines connecting ship to target. Each beam found its mark with impossible accuracy, swatting fighters from space as if they were insects. "Evasive maneuvers," Minji ordered. "All ships, begin emergency." Her words were cut off as the Defiant launched what appeared to be torpedoes. They looked simple, almost primitive compared to Coalition weapons, but when they detonated near the Thunder Wing, the resulting explosions completely overwhelmed its shields, leaving the mighty cruiser drifting with multiple systems offline. "How?" Minji whispered, watching as her battle group, the pride of the Coalition fleet, was systematically dismantled by a single vessel. "How is this possible?" The answer came in the form of another transmission, the same calm voice that had spoken to the Star Seeker earlier. "Coalition vessels, this demonstration is complete. Your fighters are disabled but salvageable. Your crews are unharmed. Consider this a lesson in the dangers of assumptions about technological superiority." Minji stared at the view screen, watching as the Defiant moved with that same brutal efficiency into a position that could target all three cruisers simultaneously. In less than 10 minutes, everything she knew about space combat had been proven wrong. The Coalition's mighty ships, their advanced shields, their superior technology, all of it had been rendered meaningless by this single human vessel. The massive display screens in Coalition Central Command filled the circular chamber with an eerie glow. Admiral Kim Ta-won stood motionless, his crystalline form reflecting the images playing before him. Around the room, dozens of high-ranking officers watched in silence as the combat footage cycled through again. The defeat of Eternal Flame Battle Group played out in stark detail. The human vessel's movements, the precision of its attacks, the complete neutralization of Coalition forces, everything was captured in high resolution. Each time the footage repeated, Ta-won felt his confidence in Coalition's superiority crack a little more. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice tight. "Focus on their weapons systems." The footage zeroed in on the HMS Defiance weapon ports, the strange, long barrels that fired physical projectiles, the precise energy beams that picked fighters from space with terrifying accuracy, the torpedoes that somehow bypassed their most advanced shields. 60 fighters, Ta-won muttered. 3 heavy cruisers. Our best ships, our best pilots. All disabled in less than 10 minutes. His staff shifted uncomfortably. These were the Coalition's top military minds, beings who had spent centuries perfecting space combat doctrine. Now they watched as a single ship from an unknown species tore apart everything they thought they knew about warfare. Som Jae-yun, his tactical officer, stepped forward. Her crystalline form was older than most, carrying the wisdom of 3 centuries of military service. She had analyzed the combat data extensively since the incident. "Sir," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "I believe I understand how they defeated us so easily." Ta-won turned to face her. "Explain. How does a species we've never encountered possess such capabilities? Our technology is the result of thousands of years of development." Jae-yun activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed detailed scans of the Defiance weapon systems. The humans developed their technology along completely different lines than us. While we focused on energy weapons and defensive shields, they took a different path entirely. The hologram highlighted the railgun systems. These weapons fire physical projectiles at speeds we thought impossible. Our shields were designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, particle beams. But these kinetic weapons, they pass right through as if our shields don't exist. Why would they use such primitive weapons? One of the other officers asked. Physical projectiles went out of fashion millennia ago. Jai-Yun's expression hardened. Primitive. Look at the results. Their primitive weapons completely neutralized our most advanced defenses. We became so focused on energy-based technology that we forgot about other possibilities. A hologram shifted to show the Defiance armor. Their hull is like nothing we've seen before. Multiple layers of advanced materials, each designed to handle different types of damage. While we relied on shields to protect us, they created armor that can shrug off direct hits. Taiwan watched as the analysis continued. The human chip's point defense systems were a perfect blend of energy weapons and physical countermeasures. Their engine technology allowed for maneuvers that coalition ships couldn't match. Even their internal systems showed evidence of technological paths the coalition had never considered. It's not just their weapons. Jai-Yun continued. Look at how they fight. No wasted movement. No flashy displays of power. Everything they do serves a purpose. They didn't just disable our ships. They did it with surgical precision, targeting exactly what they needed to, and nothing more. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The coalition had ruled space unopposed for so long that they had become complacent. They had assumed their path of technological development was the only valid one. Now they faced a species that had taken a completely different route and produced results that challenged everything they thought they knew. What do we know about their civilization? Ta-One asked. Their history. Jai-Yun's expression grew more serious. Very little, sir, but based on their ship design and combat doctrine, I believe we're dealing with a species that has extensive experience with warfare. The precision, the redundancy in their systems, the focus on practical effectiveness over theoretical superiority. These are traits you only develop through actual combat experience. The implications made Taiwan's crystalline form vibrate with concern. A young species with advanced technology was one thing, but a young species with advanced technology and extensive combat experience. That was something the coalition had never faced before. We need to know more, he decided. Everything about them. Their history, their technology, their capabilities. If one of their ships can do this much damage, imagine what their full fleet could do. The combat footage continued playing on the screens above them. The Defiant's dark form moved through space with predatory grace, systematically dismantling forces that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. In less than an hour, humanity had completely upended the Coalition's understanding of military power. The Grand Chamber of the Coalition Council buzzed with nervous energy as Director Choi Hyun-woo prepared his presentation. His crystalline form reflected the soft light from the hovering displays around him, each screen filled with data about humanity. After weeks of intense research, what his intelligence division had discovered kept him awake during rest cycles. Honorable council members, he began, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. What I'm about to share will change how we view our place in the galaxy. The council chamber held 50 of the most powerful beings in Coalition space. Their crystalline forms glittered with various colors, representing different species and ranks. All eyes focused on the central display as Hyun-woo activated it. This is Earth, he said, showing an image of a blue-green planet, humanity's homeworld. At first glance, it appears unremarkable. But this planet has produced something unprecedented in our history. He brought up images of human history, carefully collected from intercepted transmissions and data packets. Humans have been a spacefaring species for less than 300 years. In Coalition terms, they are infants, but their development path is unlike anything we've seen before. The display showed scenes from human history, armies clashing, vehicles evolving from simple wheeled machines to complex war machines, aircraft developing from primitive gliders to supersonic fighters. Their entire civilization is built on constant advancement through conflict, Hyun-woo explained. While we spent millennia in relative peace, they spent their history fighting, adapting, and improving their weapons and tactics. One council member raised a hand. Surely such constant conflict would have destroyed them. Hyunwoo's expression grew more serious. That's what makes them unique. Instead of destroying themselves, they learned from each conflict. Each war led to new technologies, new strategies, new ways of thinking about combat. The display shifted to show the HMS Defiant. This vessel, it's not just a warship. It's the product of thousands of years of warfare knowledge. Every system, every weapon, every design choice reflects lessons learned in combat. He highlighted specific features of the ship. Their rail guns, developed from primitive gunpowder weapons they used centuries ago. Their point defense systems, evolved from anti-aircraft weapons they created for their atmospheric wars. Their armor, the result of countless battles teaching them the value of redundancy and protection. The council chamber remained silent as Hyunwoo continued. But it's not just their technology that should concern us. Their military doctrine, their strategic thinking, it's all shaped by actual combat experience. They don't just study war in simulations like we do. They've lived it. He brought up more images, human military academies, training facilities, defense installations. They maintain massive military forces even in peacetime. Their children study military history alongside other subjects. Their entertainment often focuses on warfare and combat. One council member's crystalline form vibrated with alarm. Are you suggesting they're naturally aggressive? A threat to the coalition? Hyunwoo shook his head. No, that's what's most interesting. They're not mindless warriors. They're incredibly sophisticated in their approach to conflict. They prefer diplomacy when possible, but they never forget how to fight. Every human vessel carries the accumulated knowledge of countless battles. The display showed more details of human military capabilities. Their ships were designed with multiple redundant systems. Their crews trained constantly for every possible scenario. Their tactical doctrine emphasized flexibility and adaptation rather than rigid protocols. The Defiant incident wasn't just a fluke. Hyunwoo explained. It was a demonstration of how humans approach combat. They analyzed our capabilities, identified our weaknesses, and executed a precise response. That's how they think. Always learning, always adapting, always improving. The council chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Thousands of years of coalition dominance had been built on the assumption that their technology and doctrine were superior. Now they faced a species that had developed along completely different lines, with capabilities they couldn't easily counter. What are your recommendations? The council leader asked, their crystalline form dimmed with concern. Hyunwoo straightened. We must completely reassess our approach. Our current military doctrine is based on theoretical models and limited conflicts. Humanity's doctrine is forged in real combat. If we continue to underestimate them, the consequences could be severe. He showed one final image, a map of known human space. They're not aggressive expansionists, but they're absolutely capable of defending themselves. The Defiant showed us what one of their ships can do. We need to approach them with respect and understanding, not superiority and assumptions. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The coalition had ruled space through technological advancement and political stability. Now they faced a species that had taken a completely different path to power, one built on the hard lessons of warfare and combat. The neutral space station, Haven Point, floated silently at the edge of contested space. Its gleaming white halls, usually filled with merchants and travelers, had been cleared for this historic meeting. Ambassador Yoon Seri stood at the window of the conference room, her crystalline form reflecting the starlight as she waited for the human delegation to arrive. Security teams from both sides had spent days preparing the station. Coalition guards lined one side of the corridor, their crystalline forms rigid with tension. On the opposite side, human security personnel stood at attention, their solid forms and dark uniforms creating a stark contrast. Siri had reviewed every piece of intelligence about humans multiple times. Still, nothing prepared her for the moment when Captain Kang Do-young walked into the room. The human diplomatic officer moved with a fluid grace that seemed at odds with their solid form. Unlike the Astrian's crystalline structure, humans appeared both fragile and formidable at the same time. Ambassador Yoon, Do-young said, offering a slight bow. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Siri returned the gesture, noting how the human's dark uniform bore subtle insignias and marks of rank. Captain Kang. "The Coalition welcomes this opportunity for dialogue." They sat at the large conference table, each side accompanied by their advisors and translators. Siri couldn't help but notice how the human delegation carried themselves, relaxed yet alert, casual yet professional. It was the bearing of people completely confident in their capabilities. "Let's address the recent incident directly," Siri began, her translator converting her words. "The encounter between your vessel and our patrol forces has caused considerable concern." Do-young nodded, a slight smile playing at the corners of their mouth. The HMS Defiant was following standard patrol protocols when it was confronted. Captain Lee Sunok showed considerable restraint in the situation. Restraint. Siri's crystalline form vibrated with surprise. The Defiant disabled 3 of our heavy cruisers and an entire fighter wing. Without casualties, Do-young pointed out. The Defiant's crew took great care to minimize damage and prevent loss of life. Had they employed their full capabilities, the outcome would have been quite different. Siri felt a chill run through her crystalline structure. Full capabilities. Do-young's expression remained pleasant, but carried a hint of steel beneath it. The HMS Defiant is a medium-weight patrol cruiser, one of hundreds in our fleet. It carries only standard armament and defensive systems for a vessel of its class. The revelation hit Siri like a physical blow. The ship that had so easily defeated their best forces was just a patrol vessel. Her mind raced with implications. If a simple patrol ship could do this much damage, what were their actual warships capable of? "I see this concerns you," Do-young said softly. "Let me be clear. Humanity has no interest in conflict with the Coalition. We prefer peaceful coexistence and trade, but we will defend our interests when necessary." Siri gathered her composure. "The Coalition has maintained peace in this sector for thousands of years. Our technology is impressive," Do-young interrupted politely, "but focused in specific directions. Humanity took different paths in our development. We learned different lessons." The human captain pulled out a small device, projecting a holographic map of local space. "We propose establishing clear boundaries, recognized trade routes, military cooperation where appropriate. We believe both our peoples can benefit from peaceful interaction." Siri studied the map, noting how the proposed boundaries respected existing Coalition space while carving out clear human territories. It was reasonable, fair even. But the implied message was clear. These were the terms of equals, not of a superior power dictating to a lesser one. "Your proposal will need to be reviewed by the Council," Siri said carefully. Do-young nodded. "Of course, we understand. But please convey to your Council that humanity values clarity in such matters." The Defiant incident occurred partly due to unclear jurisdictions and assumptions about authority. The meeting continued for hours, discussing trade agreements, technological exchange protocols, and military coordination. Throughout it all, Siri couldn't shake the image of hundreds of ships like the Defiant patrolling human space, and if these were just patrol ships. As the meeting drew to a close, Do-young made one final comment that would haunt Siri for years to come. "Ambassador, humanity doesn't seek conflict, but we've learned through hard experience to be prepared for it. The Coalition has maintained peace through dominance. We maintain peace through readiness. I hope our peoples never have to learn which approach is more effective." The grand halls of the Coalition High Council had never seemed so quiet. Thousands of crystalline beings filled the ancient chamber, their forms reflecting rainbow lights across the carved walls. Yet despite their numbers, a heavy silence hung in the air. First speaker Li Jinho stood at the central podium, his aged crystalline form dimmed with the weight of the decision before them. Reports from every sector of coalition space lay before him. Military analyses, diplomatic briefings, intelligence assessments, all focused on humanity. The species that had, in one brief encounter, shattered thousands of years of coalition supremacy. Honored representatives, Jinho began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. We gather today to make perhaps the most important decision in coalition history. The displays around the chamber activated, showing various images. The HMS Defiance encounter with their forces, the diplomatic meeting at Haven Point, and maps of human space. Each image served as a reminder of how quickly their galaxy had changed. For 10,000 years, the Coalition has maintained order through superior technology and unquestioned authority. We believed our path was the only path to the stars. We were wrong. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Such words from the first speaker were unprecedented. Jinho continued, his voice growing stronger. The humans have shown us another way. While we focused on perfecting energy weapons, they mastered kinetic technology. While we relied on shields, they developed armor we cannot penetrate. While we theorized about warfare, they lived it. He brought up the analysis of human military capabilities. Their patrol ships match our heaviest cruisers. Their actual warships, he paused, letting the implications sink in. We face a choice. Continue our policy of dominance and face a war we might not win, or embrace a new era of cooperation with humanity. An elder representative stood, their crystalline form almost transparent with age. First speaker, surely with our numbers, our established territory. Numbers. Jinho interrupted gently. Territory. The Defiant disabled 3 of our best ships without casualties. They could have destroyed them just as easily. And that was one patrol vessel, acting with restraint. The chamber erupted in discussion. Jinho waited patiently for silence to return. When it did, he activated a final display. The human diplomatic proposal. They offer us partnership, not submission. Trade routes, cultural exchange, mutual defense agreements. They'd recognize our authority in our space while asserting their rights in theirs. It is the offer of equals, not of conquerors or the conquered. Another representative spoke up. But our traditions, our position, will mean nothing if we allow pride to blind us. Jinho countered. The humans don't want war. They've had enough of it in their history. But they're prepared for it in ways we never imagined. They offer us a chance to learn from each other. He gestured to the displays. Look at their achievements. In 3 centuries, they've matched what took us millennia. Not through shortcuts or stolen technology, but through innovation and determination. They've earned their place among the stars. The chamber fell silent again as Jinho made his final appeal. The galaxy is changing. We can change with it, learn from these humans, grow stronger together, or we can cling to our pride and risk everything. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. The coalition would adapt. New borders were drawn, treaties were signed, and exchange programs were established. Human military advisors began training coalition forces in new tactics, while coalition scientists shared their knowledge of energy technology. As Jinho left the chamber that day, he paused to watch the stars through the great window. Somewhere out there, patrol ships like the Defiant continued their rounds. But now, they were potential allies, not threats. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, written not with weapons of war, but with the wisdom to know when to make peace. The coalition had ruled through power. Humanity had earned respect through capability. Together, they would forge something new, a partnership that would reshape the galaxy for millennia to come. And it had all started with a single human warship that dared to stand its ground.